Okay, guys, here's your word of the day for the day. To start with, utter, utter, and utter. Uh, Basically, you can utter a word, which means to say something aloud. So if somebody says, don't utter another sentence, it means don't say anything else. You can also, that same spelling, utter, can mean complete and total. So, for example, uh, the decision led to the utter destruction of that company, meaning the complete and total destruction of that company. There's nothing left of that company. And then finally, udder, that's these little, that's this part of the cow, the udder. That's where you get the milk from. Uh, the definition in Merriam-Webster's is funny. It says the mammary glands that hang between the back legs of the cow, sheep, or goat. So don't confuse those. If you're trying to say utter and you like saying something, don't spell it utter because that would be uh, probably probably bad. All right. Next up, pulsars. So pulsars are very, very cool things that exist out in nature. Basically, they're neutron stars. So a neutron star is about twice the size of the sun, twice the mass of the sun, 2 times the sun. Boy, it is early. Uh, it's 2 times the mass of the sun, and that's at least. So it could be more, but it's at least 2 times the mass of the sun. But they're super, super small. They're only 13 miles in radius, which means that they're about the size. They could fit inside the 610 loop, uh, like so something twice as massive as the sun that could fit inside the loop. It's pretty crazy. A spoonful of that matter would be the same as the mass of Mount Everest. And the cool thing about pulsars is that they rotate incredibly fast, and so they're able to rotate very quickly, which in turn uh, they emit these radiation beams that go from the magnetic poles. And basically, as those things cross, they send a signal to us. And so basically, you can detect these by like seeing if you can detect these gamma rays that are coming from these specific points. And it provides useful timers because they spin at a set rate. So they have a set rate of spin that doesn't change. And so you can basically use them as timers for the universe once you know the rate at which they are spinning. England and Scotland merged. So in 1707, there was the acts of, I forget what it's called, like the acts of merger or something. But it's kind of funny because Scotland and England hated each other. They still do to some extent, but they really hated each other back then. And even though they were led by the same king, or same monarch, technically, they were still separate countries until 1707. Basically, Scottish royalty or Scottish nobility tried to create a colony in Panama. Yes, Panama, like the one that's in like right above South America. It was called the Darien Scheme, and basically all of the nobles invested very, very heavily in this. I think it was something like 50% of the wealth of Scotland. It was a ridiculous amount, and then it failed because, of course, it did because you can't have Scots living down in the tropics during the 1700s when there was no like medicine for malaria or all the other tropical diseases. Failed miserably, broke Scotland. Scotland was completely destitute. That and other things. There were lots of other things that were going on too, but this was one of the this was like the straw that broke the camel's back. And so finally, basically, Scotland agrees to a buyout, and basically England pays off Scottish debts and gives them trade within their region, and Scotland agrees to be a part of England and begins the United Kingdom. All right. And lastly, we got Lagoon by Nnedi Okorafor. She is a interesting Nigerian writer. She's, I think, Nigerian American now, but basically Lagoon takes place in the city of Lagos, which is in it's in Nigeria, and it's basically a reimagining of like a War of the Worlds type situation or a first contact situation, except rather than coming to England or to rather than coming to England or the U.S., this one lands in Lagos. The first contact comes from Lagos. It's a very interesting book. There's about 4 different characters that it follows, like a musician, like a rapper, a soldier, a marine biologist, and I forget what the other character is. But there's like 4 different characters it follows through. It's very, very good.